So I'm going to continue to go through this series called Prez from 1972. When I left off, the President of the United States, the 18-year-old Prez Ricard, was meeting with this fellow Checkmate. Checkmate is a very arrogant chess master who's only in it for the money, and so he's kind of a jerk, and he insults the Russians, and so the Russians decide they want to challenge Chess King. Now, even though I think this is supposed to be taking place in 1972, chess is very different. So this is, I guess, an alternate world, or maybe this is just how their tournaments are set up, but they're set up using actual live human beings as the chess pieces, and that doesn't really matter at all. But Prez and his secretary, or I guess the head of the FBI, Eagle Free, are there watching the chess match. And so there's the two contestants, the Russian female and then Chess King. And so they're having their chess match, and at some point, let's go back. Chess King, what? Chess King decides that somebody's doing this, is it tick-tock, and he says it's drilling into his brain, or that infernal noise, I can't think anymore. And so he says it's electronic rays that the Russians are using on him, and so he kind of goes crazy, and then the Russian calls foul, and the match is basically shut down, and he's dragged off. And then later, back at the Capitol building is attacked by what appears to be a knight, a robotic knight, which I guess is supposed to look like a chess piece. And so there is Prez with his vice president, which is his mother, and Eagle Free, trying to figure out what in the world is going on with these various attacks all over the place with these explosive robots. And so he's having a problem with a senator who I assume, I'm not sure, they don't say which party, but I think he's a conservative, Senator Ebenezer. And I guess Ebenezer's been making inflammatory statements saying that Prez is responsible. And it is kind of interesting that since he is not a Republican or a Democrat, I guess maybe he would get attacked by both. But he is an independent, or he's part of the Flower Party. So they're trying to figure out who, and by the way, Eagle Free just kind of lives in a tent. So very stereotypical Native American. So they're using their exceptional athletic skills to try and find these robots, and they believe that it is Chess King who is doing it. And Chess King really is quite a jerk. But I'll just kind of jump to the end. It turns out, no, it was the Russian, and there's Chess King locked up. So even though he's a jerk, he was not the one who was behind this. And she does attempt to kill them, but Eagle Free is able to use his bird friends to attack the woman. And then we get a look at the new dollar bill, which features the current president of the United States, Prez Ricard. So in the epilogue, we have a politician come in, and now this is where, even though it's 1972, it could resonate today, which is this Senator McNitty is very upset because Prez Ricard is proposing gun control, and so he is not happy about that. And right afterwards, there is a shot through the window, and an ambulance comes up, and so somebody is taken off. Is it Prez? Did Prez get shot? We'll have to find out in the next issue. And so I do have issue number 3 here, and there he is in the crosshairs of a gun. And this is it's both contemporarily relevant and kind of silly at the same time. So we have an attack on the White House by this group, and they are militia, which is certainly something that could resonate today, but they are dressed as Minutemen under the watch of, or the leadership of this fellow who is General Washington and an actual relative of General Washington. And so they shoot in a dwarf, and it's just a little silly. But basically, they don't like the that he is planning on criminalizing guns. And it sounds like his intention is to completely outlaw guns. It's not to limit them, but to completely outlaw them. So although this is it is a militia, it is played to be kind of silly. And so they're kind of out of money and suffering, and so it's very much like Valley Forge and George Washington, and it's kind of strange. George Washington is generally regarded as a hero, so it's kind of strange that that they would have a relative of him who is not a hero. And so this takes place in December 1977, which would be in the future, because this takes place, or this was published in 73, 74, so about three or 4 years later. And so again, General Washington, who is the I don't know, great grandson or something, he's again played to be a bit of a silly character. Let's see here. And so he asks about this organization. He says, "Yes, Prez, they are a secret organization of fanatics who are fearful of the young liberals and minorities. They're fearful that young liberals and minorities are a part of a communist plot to overthrow the government." So again, that resonates today. Very interesting. And then we kind of go back to that moment where he gets shot. And so we're going to find out that, I don't even remember who gets shot. He didn't get shot. He's still okay. Now, they're also dealing with, since the George Washington and his militia have no money, they've decided to counterfeit money, except with George Washington's face on it. And he's also angry that Prez Rickard is now on the $1 bill instead of George Washington, which is kind of understandable that he wouldn't be happy. So some guy brings in this machine to counterfeit, but it counterfeits $1 bills, but apparently it is so efficient that it can just crank out $1 bills. I don't understand why this aside is kind of silly. But they apparently have money now. So they decide to do an attack on the White House. Is it the White House or the Capitol or something like that? On Washington, D.C. And apparently they have enough firepower, even though it looks like they're carrying muskets and old-fashioned weapons. Apparently they do have the firepower to actually be a threat. Now, Prez Rickard is very nonviolent, so he does not want to get in any kind of a conflict. And so he has an idea to stop this conflict, which is basically have him fight against the leader of the opposing force, physically fight, which would be George Washington, or General Washington, whatever his first name is. But they put in a ringer, which they're not supposed to, but they dress him like General Washington, even though he is considerably bigger and clearly not the same guy. And so Prez points this out, that it's not it's General Washington. And so Eagle Free says, "Do not waver, my president." And he says, "But there's so much at stake. Maybe he shouldn't fight this gigantic guy." And he says, "Does my president show a streak of yellow?" Which is kind of a jerk thing to say. but whatever. So they fight, and this big guy apparently is quite a skillful fighter. He's not just a big guy. And so the soldiers, the U.S. soldiers, are saying, "This is impossible. Shall we send in the troop?" And the Eagle Free looks at him and says, "Does the white man break his word again?" It's like, really? They kind of cheated completely by putting in this gigantic guy. But Prez Rickard is tough, and so he manages to knock him. And then the soldiers are telling him to just kill him, which is apparently what the rules were. And so Prez decides he will not do it. And Eagle Free says his death would serve no purpose. And so he does stop and does not kill him. Kind of serious for such a silly looking comic book. But General Washington just says, "The hell with it, we're going to attack anyway. Forget the fight." And so they just go to war. And so even though the fighting's going on, Prez is kind of being shown as still nonviolent. And then finally he says, "Call our forces, General, smash them." And so using far superior firepower, they put down the enemy forces. But he does tell the soldiers, "Okay, it's done. Let's stop." And General Washington grabs him around the neck and starts dragging him. But then that big guy who he fought comes in and knocks off General Washington. And it turns out it's not a change of heart. Apparently he always worked for the government, and Prez just didn't realize it. He was an FBI infiltrator, so they infiltrated this militia, which again does resonate with today. And so in the end, Prez learns a lesson. Look at all these great ads. I love these ads. And if I could just turn the page. Okay, so he says, he makes a speech. "This day I have passed from a callow youth to a mature man. I have learned from this tragedy that force cannot be met with cool phrases, love, or flowers." So he's learned that violence is sometimes the solution. Now, I'm not saying it's not. But it's interesting that of all the lessons he could learn, that's the lesson that we are being taught, that sometimes violence is the answer. So the president from the Flower Party has learned the value of violence. And I don't really know. You would think that Eagle Free would not be happy with this. And some of them are even saying, "Warmonger, traitor, hawk." So I guess maybe it's the left is saying that, and on the right they're saying, "Yeah, finally you learned that violence is the solution." And Eagle Free says, "Your speech will go down in history, by Prez, along with Lincoln's Gettysburg Address and Washington's farewell to the troops." Okay, all right. And then apparently we still don't know who the assassin was that tried to kill Prez. So I guess we'll maybe learn that in the next issue. So anyway, that's issue finishing off 2, and then issue 3 of Prez, the first teen president.